And before we hear him speak, I'd just like to quote to you from one of his more intelligible recent works, not very recent, Leninism or Trotskyism. It is the aim of this book to lay bare the truly reactionary, counter-revolutionary essence of the petty bourgeois ideology of Trotskyism, which is as irreconcilably hostile to Marxism-Leninism as is the bourgeoisie to the proletariat, notwithstanding its pseudo-Marxist, ultra-left and ultra-revolutionary terminology.
Points of information. May I ask what this has to do with the motion?
It has to do with the source of the argument. My question to you is, does anybody in this room understand that last paragraph?
Aye.
But amongst those not putting their hands up was half the rub. I have to say to you that our side of the debate is not exactly exempt from eccentricities. We have a sex addict. I myself have been described, I'm part of an endangered species, a hedge fund manager, inspired by the Archbishop of York as a bank robber, and by a Liberal Democrat peer as a wart on the face of capitalism. In fact, the only one of the guest speakers who really is, if you like, a serious protagonist is Nick Wood, who's the only person amongst the guest speakers who can seriously be potentially seen as somebody who is genuinely in his daily work saving the planet. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it. But there is a serious point about the lineup of the speakers, and this is the following. All three speakers on our side of the debate are agents of capitalism. We all create wealth. All four speakers, I include the two not here and the two present, on the other side of the debate are beneficiaries of capitalism. They benefit from taxation, or they are sustained through charitable donations or corporate sponsorship. And that's very important. So when you listen to the arguments of the two sides, understand where they come from, because these gentlemen effectively are like the dog that bites the hand that feeds them. They depend on capitalism. I want to turn now to the substance of the debate. The motion itself is a dangerous motion. We're talking about saving the world. We're in danger of confusing economics with religion. And a lot of the great crimes of the 20th century were actually committed by regimes, people that Arthur Brass supports, who confused economics with religion or with ideology. But many mistakes were also made on the other side of the argument. Market fundamentalism, the creed of John Redwood, Newt Gingrich, and conservatives and Republicans on both sides of the Atlantic, has given capitalism a bad name. Not only that, but they have been behind the failure to understand that markets fail, the failure to regulate banks and markets properly. And they are behind the problems that the capitalist system is facing today. So when we talk about capitalism, we've got to be a lot more modest. And our starting point is understanding human nature. Because ultimately, all economic systems depend on the human agents who operate within it. And human nature is flawed. It's subject to present good, to great good, and great evil. It is subject to extremes of self-interest. It is subject to excesses of greed and fear, which is what we've seen in financial markets in the last 10 years. So my claim for capitalism is a modest one. It is analogous to the claim that Winston Churchill made for democracy. It is the least bad system that we have found so far for allocating resources. We look at the Wikipedia definition of capitalism. It's actually very helpful. It is a system where, I quote, investments, distribution, income, production and pricing of goods and services are predominantly determined through the operation of a free market rather than by central economic planning. The main alternatives to capitalism are feudalism, capitalism replaced, which is still alive in the Bullingdon Club, and the upper echelons of the Conservative Party, and then fascism, communism, Stalinism, which held sway in various parts of the 20th century and did enormous damage to human rights.
Is the main opposition to capitalism and socialism, which is far more modest form, is that something like fascism? Or
It's a more modest form, but its central tenet is still the preference for the state as a source of control. Now, the interesting thing is that today, capitalism is at the lowest ebb for 80 years, and yet nobody is suggesting a serious alternative. Nobody serious, I emphasize that, is suggesting an alternative.
Comes your information.
No. I'm getting used to this. The argument today is not about whether we replace capitalism, it's about which type of capitalism should operate better. Is it Russian capitalism, which is actually a kleptocracy because they don't have property rights? Is it Chinese capitalism, which allows markets to operate on the fringe and deliver progress but keeps state control at the center? Is it Rhineland capitalism, which tolerates markets within a mixed economy and still allows the state to intervene, mainly to make people like Sarkozy, President Sarkozy, feel important? Is it the unbridled Anglo-Saxon capitalism of the last 15 years, where markets were treated as masters and not servants, where we didn't understand that markets failed? Or is it a restrained, economically literate type of capitalism, which understands that markets fail and which treats markets as servants and not masters?
What is the definition?
No. If we take the latter definition, then I believe we can resume and continue the progress of the last 300 years, which has seen life expectancy go from 30 to 78, which has seen the end to disease like polio, malaria, tuberculosis, typhoid, cholera, and AIDS, which has seen education available to every child from 5 to 18, which allows me on my BlackBerry now to phone anyone in the world and speak to them in Hong Kong, in California, wherever I want, provided they're on.
They don't have a phone
And
because they're starving to death.
so we can continue progress. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an important debate. In 1933, this chamber made itself notorious by appearing as pacifiers of Nazi Germany. Today, at an important time for capitalism, you have an important decision to make. Do not go down as opponents of capitalism. Go for a restrained, economically literate capitalism which recognizes market failures and legislates accordingly. If you do that, then we can save the world from communism, from fascism, from socialism, from Nazis, from ignorance, from squalor, from ill health, and from global warming. I ask you, in the interest of the future and progress of our society, to support the motion.